This is the track, track 1. And we start with EU vocabularies, enhancing data or data, either way, management and interoperability for EU institutions and data spaces. And you see right at the top, Denis Dechandon. Well, Anikó, you can explain why he can't make it today, but Anikó and Vassilis Tzouvaras are with us, and they will speak. And Lorenzo is our timekeeper, so keep that in mind, any other speakers too. He holds the time, and he holds up a little card when it's a 2-minute warning, right? He gives you a 2-minute warning. We need to stay to time. Okay, Anikó, please.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. So yes, there is a third name in the presentation, Denis Dechandon, who is our head of sector. He cannot be here, unfortunately, today, but he largely contributed not only to the presentation, but also to the whole organization of the event. So we are going to speak about EU Vocabularies, which is one of the platforms run by the Publications Office, and also how do we contribute and how do we collaborate with data spaces through reference data. So I will not go so much into details about who we are and what we do at the Publications Office. You have already heard our Director General in the morning speaking. We are the official service provider to EU institutions across various platforms, such as EU law, EU tenders, Cordis for research results, open data as well. And one of these platforms is called EU Vocabularies, which is providing all the necessary metadata to categorize, to classify, and to index the content of all of these websites. So by EU Vocabularies, we mean different things, and we rely on 3 main pillars. First of all, this is a gateway to reference data. To controlled vocabularies, we have more or less 300 vocabularies that are openly accessible and freely accessible to all on our platform. Controlled vocabularies as ontologies, taxonomies, thesauri, code lists, authority lists, and so on. Then we also provide a set of services to EU institutions to create, to maintain, to publish these vocabularies with a set of robust semantic tools such as Vocbench, Showvoc, or Cellar. So we are going to explain them also a bit later on. So what are these vocabularies? Here we have only a few examples, of course, of the 300 with different types. So authority lists to start, which are harmonized lists of codes and used to support metadata exchange across institutions. If you remember the word cloud in the ice-breaking question, which country are you from or are you traveling from in the first moment of the event, you had, I don't know if you noticed, but you had not only countries, but also cities, different languages of cities, even parts of cities. So I'm coming from Schaerbeek, from Belgium, and so on. So this is why you need standardized lists. If you had used the country list, which is standardized, where you cannot have typos, variants, language variants, and so on, then we would have avoided. So this is the main goal of these standardized authority lists. We have very generic ones, such as corporate bodies or countries or currencies, but also very specific ones for e-procurement, for example, or for the legal data exchange. If we go for more structured ones, we have taxonomies, such as the statistical classifications published for Eurostat, which are in the European statistical system, or Euroscivoc, which is used by Cordis, so to classify this in the science domain. Thesauri, also Eurovoc was already mentioned, or the Digital Europa Thesaurus, which is used to classify the content on the europa.eu website. Or to more formal representation of knowledge management systems, we have the ontologies, of course, that have been already mentioned today. ELI is one of them, heard in the introduction speech of our Director General, or the ERA vocabulary, and a lot of others that are used not only by EU institutions, but across data spaces. And then, of course, the application profiles, DICAT-AP for the description of datasets, and all of its specifications for mobility, for health, for example. So how do we create, maintain, and publish them? We have a set of tools for browsing, for querying, for editing, and accessing reference data. For the maintenance, we are using Vocbench, which is an open source tool developed by the University of Rome Tor Vergata. It means that anyone can access it, but in the Publications Office, we provide a corporate access to it, to all EU institutions, which means that they only need to access via the browser, and then we do all the necessary configurations and user management as well. It's using semantic technologies, so it's for the management of all RDF-based vocabularies, mainly in SCOS or OWL, and it's supporting multilingual features as well, and user collaboration. So it has a very enhanced user management, and it enables multiple users to work together and also validate each other's work. Then ShowVoc is the complementary tool of Vocbench for data visualization. So it has very enhanced browsing and visualization and search features as well. And it's also supporting link data and the visualization of alignments. And then once the vocabularies are created, are maintained and updated, then we need to also publish them. So first of all, we publish them in the Cellar Semantic Repository, which is the official repository of the Publications Office, not only containing reference data, but all the other publications that we have. And it's accessible via Sparkle endpoint, so it provides a machine-readable access to systems. And for the human-readable access, we have EU vocabularies, as already mentioned, also with different view and browsing and search features, and different views also to browse the vocabularies. And then now a few examples about how we collaborate with data spaces. So also data spaces, of course, need to access reference data, need to standardize the meaning of the data, and also to enable that it's machine readable for the systems. So this is why semantics is stepping in. So in the next slides, we are going to present only a few examples of the data spaces that we actively collaborate with. So this is just a selection. First of all, about the legal data space that relies on the use of multiple ontologies, such as ELI, so the European Legislation Identifier, and all of its variants, as well as the EUVOC ontology, which is developed and maintained by our team. They are also published on data.europa.eu, so the central point of access for European datasets. Then in our unit, we also publish the AKN for EU schema, so the Akumantozo for EU, and also propagate the reuse of a lot of code lists and authority lists, such as currencies, such as treaties, for example. We have a lot of legally specific vocabularies that are used by the legal data space. Then the next example is the public procurement data space, where which builds on the e-procurement ontology that is also maintained and published by the Publications Office. And also the building block are the over 60 code lists, which are procurement specific. There are also a few generic ones that are reused, for example, currencies or countries, but also a lot of very specific ones that are covering the procurement domain. These are also available on a business collection page. It means that it provides more user-friendly information about how the data is used and what data is especially used in the data space. And the most recent collaboration with the public procurement data space is a creation of a new controlled vocabulary, which is foreseen for later this year about entity status. The cultural heritage data space has two vocabularies that we are maintaining in Vocbench and that they are maintaining in Vocbench, and we publish on EU vocabularies, the DBIAS vocabulary and the DBIAS ontology. So these are providing a list of derogative terms and descriptors and also their neutral variants. So how do they use it? On the European website, they have a tool called DBIAS tool, and it's calling these URIs from the SCOS vocabulary to detect all the possibly harmful and derogative terms, and then they provide and they suggest inclusive and more neutral variants for them. So it's ensuring both interoperability and also ethics. Then for the mobility data space, we are as well maintaining the ERA vocabulary and the ERA ontology in Vocbench and also on ShowVoc. These are to model transport entities, so this is the main aim, and that's how it's used. They also have the mobility DCAT AP, so one of the specifications of DCAT AP that is published on data.europa.eu. And it's ensuring the metadata, the consistency of metadata structures across the railway system. And then, linked to this, we recently had also an adaptation of the frequency authority table, which is used also by other systems, by the way. But the the collaborators from the data space asked us to also adapt to have the same semantic meaning of these specific concepts as hourly or up to 15 minutes or every 1 minute, because it's very important, of course, to ensure the timekeeping in the mobility systems. So this was one of the recent collaborations that we had. It was an alignment for the mobility DKTP. And then finally, the health data space that has also a specialized DKTP profile, health DKTP, published and hosted on data.europa.eu, and it's also used in the central terminology system and at the health data at EU platform. So this is for the description of the health-related data sets. So after all these examples, I will give the floor to Vassilis to give a little bit an overview on how we work with AI. And this slide is only an overview about the ongoing collaborations of the data spaces, about either they reuse or create or maintain or publish the vocabularies. So these are just a few use cases to give an overview. So to you.
Thank you very much, Anikó. So, as Anikó explained, we have hundreds of authority lists, vocabularies, taxonomies, thesaurus, and so on. We call this the semantic assets. We use these semantic assets in order to achieve semantic interoperability. How we achieve semantic interoperability? By using these semantic assets. How we use them? We use them to tag EU documents and generally documents that we have. Or we need to align these semantic assets with other external semantic assets coming from other data spaces or from member states and so on. But we also have to incorporate them in our processes. So that's how we achieve semantic interoperability, by using these semantic assets. But this is not coming without an effort. It is coming with some manual effort, which is time-consuming, and which also means that this is costly. And this is where AI can help. It can significantly enrich and optimize the use, the maintenance, and the scalability of reference data. It is a power enabler for us. And we specifically use two AI services. We use the semantic tagging. How we use it? In order to speed up the process of tagging. So when we have to tag a document, usually there is an editor that sees the document and creates the tags. Now we can use these automatic processes not to fully automate the process, but to facilitate the editor in order to quickly produce some tags so the editor can see them and validate them or add more tags and so on. And the second one is the semantic alignment that we have to perform between our semantic assets and other external semantic assets that come from various other areas and offices. And finally, we have to use AI agents in order to incorporate them in our processes. There are certain APIs that we have to use in order to plug them in our processes. So AI agents can help in this process. Specifically for semantic alignments, and the Publications Office and EU Vocabularies is not the only place that we create authority lists and ontologies, and we publish them. There are the data spaces. There are already tens of data spaces. In maybe a few years, there will be hundreds of data spaces. And there are the member states that they also create vocabularies, which means that if we are not aligned with those vocabularies, we don't have semantic interoperability. So semantic alignment is a crucial process, and it is a process that currently is a manual process that takes quite a lot of time. So we have to use automatic processes in order to align all these different vocabularies. And in order to have all these nice AI models running well, we have to train them, validate them, benchmark them on high-quality representative data sets. We all know very well that garbage in, garbage out. So if we don't have good training data sets, we don't have good AI models. So in the Publications Office, we are in the process of publishing training data sets that can be used by research institutes, by other EU institutions to train their models. But what is a good training data set? Is a training data set that is representative, which means that we collect data sets covering all relevant domains, languages, formats, and types of information. And this is not something that is happening fully automatic. The human has to be in the loop. The human has to give feedback. So the human is an important factor in this process. It has to provide the feedback that this is correct or is not correct. So we all talk about annotated data sets, not just data sets, and we have the means to provide these kind of data sets to train the AI models. And finally, in order to support the infrastructure for data spaces, we are closely cooperating with Simple and the Data Spaces Support Center. Simple is an open source, smart and secure middleware platform that supports data spaces and interoperability among these European data spaces. It ensures that the different data spaces can exchange data in an interoperable way. And finally, the Data Space Support Center contributes to the creation of common data spaces that collectively create a sovereign, interoperable, and trustworthy data sharing environment. So it provides guidance and consultancy for semantic interoperability, and it produces a number of blueprints that contains all this information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vassilis, Anikó. So we should move to the, well, let's take one quick question, if you can give a brief answer. How do you make semantic alignment with AI? Do you use full semantics or just label matching?
We're using both. So the first is the label.
Closer to the, closer to
Yes. We're using, yes, first we start with the simplest tasks, which is the string matching, yes, the label matching. Mm-hmm. So, but sometimes this is not enough. You have to be aware of the context. So you have to go in a more sophisticated ways to align vocabulary. So the first is to do the label matching using string matching, fuzzy string matching algorithms, and so on. Right. But we are also going into more sophisticated. It's not us that we are implementing these algorithms. We are deploying existing algorithms. So we are not a research institute that develops the algorithms, but we're using existing, either commercial or open source, in order to perform these processes.
Okay, and quickly, Anikó, if you could answer this briefly, how do you make semantic alignment with AI? Do you use full semantics or just label matching?
That was just replied.
Yes.
Yes.
You did that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, no. Can I freely download and reuse, the different data assets mentioned in the data spaces section?
Yes. So all of these vocabularies that are available on EU Vocabularies are free to, first of all, browse, and of course also to download in different formats. These formats are machine-readable formats, so you can download in RDF, XML, and so on, but so don't expect very human-readable downloads, but for the human-readable access, of course, we have EU Vocabularies. So all of these assets that we have mentioned are available via EU Vocabularies.
Very good. Anikó and Vassilis, thank you very much. Thank you.